How's everybody doing today? Happy holiday. I'm actually off today, so that's cool. I know a lot of people are off, so what's up, Tobias? How you doing, man? Glad you can join me. So we're gonna talk about one of my favorite subjects today, which is federal compliance. Let's see. Check out my screen. Looks like we rolling. Looks like we excellent. You know how I roll. If you got any security questions, just put them in the box. We can pivot to them and pivot back. So a lot of people know I do federal compliance work, a la STIGS, DOD, HIPAA, Health and Hospital, IRS, Pub 1075, GXP, which is pharmaceutical compliance. So in the end, I help very large companies get government approval. Um, Basically, what that means is a lot of times when you do work where you are what's up, Peter? Glad you could join me. When you do federal work, a lot of times it's called ATO. We'll jump into it, the ATO is authority to operate. So to do federal work for hospitals, once again, DOD, especially DOD, CMC, that type of work, the government's got to sign off on your paperwork to do that. Every now and then I'll go ahead and freelance and I'll jump out and go to and do freelance work. A lot of smaller companies trying to do government work and to get their paperwork. A system security plan for federal work is usually about 800 pages, right? So most people are not aware of how much. I'm just gonna call it minutia, right? Because we're gonna get started. Compliance does not equal security, and if you're security tight, that doesn't mean your compliance is tight, right? So those are actually two separate things, right? So if you're compliant, your security could be weak, right? If your security's tight, your compliance could be weak, right? Because when you talk about compliance, you're actually talking about a security program, right, and how to get that started. And compliance, I think, is a lot easier way to get in cybersecurity, and I'm gonna talk about that in another stream. What does that mean? Helping companies do paperwork, understanding that paperwork. Two, it's a bag, right? I eat well. I need to go on and die in 2022. So let's get started. You see at the top, Information System Security Association. That's a cybersecurity group that people join. I'm actually going to present for them in January, so I actually want to go through these slides too as a test because I think I submitted my slides and I think they got to approve them, so they'll let me know if I qualify to speak for them in January, right? Cool thing, it's in Zoom. I can do it from my house. I got to talk to y'all, right? So once again, if you got any cybersecurity questions, yep, I'm looking at a few compliance. Well, let me know, Tobias. I think I'm actually do a start doing more compliance classes. I actually used to teach a compliance class about 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that's going to be my next class I'm going to teach on YouTube. That bag is good, Tobias. Like I said, I've been doing that compliance for like 20 years. I do mostly NIST 800-53, which is once again federal compliance. So you see it in the slides. Revision 5 just came out. I'm going to talk about federal compliance and security. I start off with on-prem, and we're going to talk about how do you do that in the cloud and make that move to the cloud. So let me know if you want me to do a little more talks on that. And two, Tobias, if you look in my channel, I actually have compliance. I can't even think of the term of it, where you string videos together. Man, I'm blanking out. So I have about 10 compliance videos with different compliances out there, Tobias. I got one for HIPAA, FedRAMP, GXP. I think I got one for FISMA. So yeah, I got a. So look out there, Tobias. I got about 10 of them looped together, so you can check them out. Give me a little feedback. Let's get started. We're gonna start off with this 800-53, and at the top, if you seen the thumbnail, FedRAMP was included in there. So And once again, if you got any questions, to Tobias, there's a couple, and I gotta look those up. There's a couple certifications for that. I think one is the CYSA. It's one, and GIAC has a couple compliance certifications. So I need to get those in the mix. Figure out which one I really liked, and which one I don't. Like I said, I've been doing assurance compliance for like 20 years. So it's gonna get started. I'm mumbling on a holiday and dropping stuff in my office. So let's get started. Federal compliance and security, federal compliance and security. These are various compliances. Most of these are based in the United States. And from assurance and GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, especially in the government. One of these are ones you're going to be trying to apply to and get an ATO, an authority to operate. Once again, we're digging that. PCI's credit cards, FSMA's DOT, MARZE is the Social Security Office, IRS Pub 1075 is the IRS, CGIS is police, state police and FBI. FedRAMP is government approval of on cloud vendors. Everybody know what HIPAA is. That's health and hospital when you're doing business with a hospital. FERPA, education. High trust is the technical part of HIPAA. CSA, I gotta look that up real quick. ISO, that's old, really. International standards of OR, right? Those are actually getting placed more with NIST, which I don't even have NIST stuff in there, which is NIST. Then SOC is real big. I am vehemently against SOC reports. I don't know why. SOC reports are actually done by accounting firms on security, and most of the times the client and the accounting firm agrees what's going to be in scope, right? So that's why GXP is a pharmaceutical company, right? So all your Tobias's playlist. I got a compliance playlist out there, so go check it out. I'm trying to do all the major compliance that are out there and kind of go over at a high level what you need, policies and procedures. What does that certain compliance needs? Like so, obviously there's a lot of compliance out here. Most companies at least gonna do PCI for the credit cards and FedRAMP slash NIST if you report to the government. So I need to update that slide. So this publication 800-53 provides a catalog of security and privacy control for all United States federal information system, except those related to national security. It is published by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a non-regulatory agency of the United States Department of Commerce. While commerce is a ton of how we do business, right? Most of that's on the internet, right? So that's why we dig into the commerce. NIST develops and issues standards, guidelines, and other publications to assist federal agencies in implementing. The Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014 was FISMA, was to help managing cost and effective programs to protect their information and information systems. Right, so 2014, of course, everybody's trying to get on the internet, trying to get it solidified, right? So I think the next thing, and we'll get into FedRAMP, is how do you do that in the cloud, and how does the government include those uh, security controls on the cloud so you don't have to keep repeating yourself, right? And AWS, Azure, and Google, all their data centers has a certain level of assurance or compliance or certification that's been done by the government. So it tells you what kind of data and what kind of systems you can put up there in your agency or in your system, right? So let's see. So let's see. There's a security breach is a compliance or if there's a security breach is a compliance or cybersecurity issue. It's actually both. From a cybersecurity issue, you got to figure out what happened, patch it, get it figured out and get it dealt with. The compliance part of that, because depending on what compliance you're doing, it tells you how quickly you need to notify. Like I do a lot of IRS work. If we think we've been hacked, they want to know in 24 hours, right? I think HIPAA is 48 hours. So compliance is going to tell you what you need to do, and who you need to notify, right? And a lot of my state, if 1,000 records have been hacked in my state, I have to let the state attorney general know Peter. So both of those work hand in hand. Compliance is going to tell me who I need to notify, what time I need to notify. The actual cybersecurity part is how we figure out what happened. How do we get patched? Like, Apache Log4j's out there, right? From a cybersecurity patch, how do we figure out? How do we block GNDI? How do we go back in the logs and figure out if somebody stole some out of our GNDI that came out from the Apache Log4j, Peter? So those work hand in hand together. What's up, Helmet? What's up, C. Hova technician? Go check out Helmet and C. Hova. I go out there. He gives some great tech tips. I'm still struggle streaming, so I'm gonna need C Hover to help me out. I'm trying to start a new one in 2022. I'm going on the diet. And I'm gonna get my setup a little better. I'm trying to do both of those in 2022. So, but Peter, yeah, those go hand in hand. Once again, this is part of the special publication and the series that reports on information technology research guidelines. The NIST covers the risk management framework that addresses security control selection for federal information systems. FIPS 200 is what type of risks are our system taking. The cool thing is I never do FIPS 200 because the agency I report to is going to tell you what level my system's at, right? So the IRS is going to say they're moderate. I think HIPAA says they're moderate because really to be high, it's got to be life or death. So you're talking about radar systems, nuclear power plants. So there's only going to be a few things that's in that high from a risk perspective though. But I'm weird though. I still like to patch my systems high, right? Like they're life or death, right? Because if I get hacked, I'm gonna get fired, right? And I'm fat. I need to be eating, so I try to patch my systems at high though, even though it's not life or death, right? I'm trying to get the best security I can get for the time, you know, that I have those systems, right? Um, and the two big thing down here is security rules of 18 areas, access controls. The big one now is the incident response, business continuity, and disaster recovery, right? Why those three? Because when you get hit with something like Apache Log4j, are you gonna have to spin up new systems? What have they stole? Or did they put ransomware? Like one of the systems put ransomware down on your system, right? So your system's gonna be working. So where are you gonna where's your DR site at, right? Where's your business continuity? Business continuity is cool because everybody gets work from home. Everybody sent a happy birthday to Blind Guy, his wife, and their life. I was just off on their stream. I'm trying to incorporate salad into my life in 2022 so I can eat better and take a little better care of myself. Shout out to Wally for joining. Um, so once again, that's the federal compliance. We're talking about NIST 800, that's 53. That's still probably the standard. We're talking about CMC is the new one. It's actually a subset of NIST, and it hasn't been ratified yet, and people trying to go into it. So here it is, my slide. I love this slide. Federal compliance. So at the left, we have compliance. And at the right, we have security, right? Right. So once again, you could be compliant and not be secure, or you could be secure and not be compliant, right? So you got to do both of those at the same time and make sure they work. Right? Once again, I work. I am a consultant at the government, so I don't actually work for the government. When you, as a consultant, of course, you get paid a little better. But I always joke that federal money's infinite because they tax money's infinite, right? So um, I've been doing that for 20 years. I worked at DOD for 10, and I've been at a currently large state agency that reports to the IRS, right? So I've been doing this for 20 years. Wow, I'm getting up there. Shout out to happy birthday. I feel like it's my birthday, but nah, so. And once again, that shows you the intersection of it too. Compliance equals data privacy plus data security. And once again, your federal agency is going to tell you what they expect of you, as your company, right? Once again, I do a lot of Department of Revenue work around the country, reports to the IRS. I did DOD work, which reports to FISMA. I actually went out to Silicon Valley. It was the weirdest thing. I was helping startups get ready to do high trust in health and hospital. They were trying to sell what would I want to call that? They call them a enterprise bus for hospitals because usually you got doctors in different hospitals on different times. One hospital know their schedule, the other hospital know their schedule, but it's nothing integrating those two. So a lot of guys in Silicon Valley was trying to make I'm calling them information buses for doctors to kind of figure where they're at, where they're on call, and how to get a hold of those guys. They were trying to do it with zero paperwork. So I was making I was charging money to go out and setting up their compliance paperwork. Well, I'm glad you could join us. So that's where that privacy and data security, right? And two is I try to help, like I said, small business when they're trying to get government work, right? What paperwork they need to get that, and that's kind of what we're gonna dig into. So this is once again the NIST 853. This is a standard pyramid of communication and traceability. At the top is your organization, right? In the middle is your mission and business processes, and on the bottom is your information system, and at the bottom is tactical risk, and at the top is strategic risk. So let's hit strategic risk. So strategic risk, real quick, is what are you trying to do as an organization? Are you trying to be HIPAA certified? Are you trying to be GXP federally because you're a pharmaceutical? So what type of business are you trying to do strategically, right? In the middle of that is each one of your business divisions needs to take security seriously because if they slip up, they can get the whole business hacked, right? Once again, Apache Log4j out there. You click on the wrong button, right? You could you can have a ransomware problem. Then the bottom line is information systems. Once again, how do you patch Apache Log4j? How do you set up your multi-factor authentication? Who can see what, right? That's the technical risk. How am I going to put these checks on these machines and lock them down, right? Strategic is what I want to be. Do I want to get the HIPAA, high trust? Who am I reporting to? In the future is something we want to do 10 years now. We're going to need a certain level of security compliance. Are we trying to do federal work, right? And get that federal bag as a company. So we're going to need to get federal compliance. That's expensive, right? But so that's what you got to think of strategically as a company. Right, and this is the steps we talk to in the middle, right? We talk to tactically. What do those steps look like, right? And a lot of this is just pure paperwork, right? So we're gonna flow through it, right? That's the risk management life cycle. Step one, you're gonna categorize your system. For us, it's easy. If we FISMA's gonna tell us what to do, DOD is gonna tell us what to do, health and hospital, they're gonna tell you what categorization you're using, right? And at the top, you see this coming from logs and policy guidance from that oversight government. Then two, we're going to select the controls, we want to use that are for that, right? Two, we want to add some extra controls because we want to be more secure. Then we're going to implement those controls, right? We're going to put them on our Active Directory, our Windows, Oracle, SQL Server, even in the cloud, right? Because some of that stuff is platform as a service. We're going to talk about this is shared responsibility in the cloud. What am I responsible for doing, and what are those? What is the cloud responsible for doing? Then we're going to assess what we done. Okay, did these control work? Where are we at? What do we have open? Right? Then authorize the system. We're going to reach out to our government agency like the IRS, DOD, Health and Hospital, and they're going to come out and bless our system, right? Oh, you did everything right, or they're going to say, no, you messed up here. You need to fix these controls, which I've had that happen in real life, right? So they're going to come out and do an audit of you. Basically, the audit's going to be like, that's what it is. Then we're going to monitor those controls. Are those controls really working? Is that firewall really working? Are we looking at our logs and trying to figure out what who's attacking us and what does that look like? Then we're going to repeat it really every year, right? Every year we're going to say, okay, these are the categories, these are controls, these are implemented. Did we implement them right? Then we're going to do a self authorization on our system to see if we've done it right. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And two is usually I have Price Waterhouse Cooper comes out, Booz Allen, the big boys come out and salute, and look at what we're doing, right? So that's the cool thing about it. So you get you get the big boys coming out and look at your system. Right? Let's see. Well, this is valuable information for free. That was given. I still learn. Facts, Peter. Let me know. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. I think. Once again, I have a playlist for compliance. I love compliance. Like I said, that's how I eat. And I've actually had a couple job offers coming out from my videos. So people reached out to me on LinkedIn. Shout out to Before the Billions. He's the role model. He did a 24-hour live. I'm too old to do a 24-hour live. I might do a 6 though, because I think I'm 400 hours short of getting monetized. So I actually want to thank everybody in here because most everybody in here is always supporting me, giving me a shout out and watching my material. So I definitely appreciate everybody. So I think I'm 4 hours short. So shout out to Before the Billion. See the role model. I might try to go 5 hours straight. Let me know if you support me if I did a 5 hour straight live. I might do a little everything, a little AWS for a couple hours, little compliance for a couple hours, and I'm inviting a couple lawyers. We're gonna talk about um, I call them society cybersecurity, meaning uh, facial recognition, um, national security, just watching you, right? One of them is if you get arrested, they talking about instead of doing cash bonds, they got cash bound algorithms, right? Two, if you get in certain programs, the government just starts watching you, right? National surveillance. So I'm do some. I got some lawyers lined up, so I think we're gonna talk about that from a society thing. Wally, never do a 24-hour live stream. I hope you got back. I did get some rest. Thank you. I support you. I appreciate it. I appreciate though, but for the billions got me thinking, man. That was why he even got a nap in his plan. His panel was so spicy, they just kept it going. So shout out to Before the Billions panel. I just had my plan while I was sleeping. I was supporting you, B2B. I just had my plan. I'm old. I got to take a nap in there before the billions. Um, so at a high level, we're gonna talk about this from compliance, trustworthiness of a system, hostile cyber attacks, natural disasters, structural failures, and human failure. So when you get an authority to operate right, that's really the trustworthiness of your system. Then security requirements are from, like you said, defined mission business. We talk about that laws, policies. IRS or DOD saying, you got to follow these laws, these directives, and these policies, right? Because I was surprised President Biden actually stated he wanted companies to do zero trust architecture. That's pretty detailed for for to come out on executive branch where he actually said you need to do zero trust, right? So I think it's becoming prevalent that government agencies are getting hacked. So I think it's coming down from the president what he wants to see from his lieutenants from the cybersecurity branch, and that usually comes from if you don't know, Homeland and Security does cybersecurity really for the whole nation. Right? They'll delegate that. I was surprised they gave TSA the physical cybersecurity for the gas station from Colonial Pipeline supposed to be secured by TSA. I was perplexed by that. But so once we get the security requirements, then we talk about the security capabilities, right? If you do you have enough capabilities to do these security requirements? Some of those things are expensive, right? So then after that, functionality. The functionality is, what are you doing? Is it MFA? Is it a VPC? Or are you using FireEye? Right? So what are you using? Then on the side, you see touching those three things is us. Security assurance, we got to validate that, right? Then once we validate it, we have security evidence, right? Artifacts. What do your logs look like? I'm gonna look at your business continuity plan. I'm gonna look at your disaster recovery plan. We can look up there. There's 20 security families that need policies that we need to check off. Right. Then my man in the house, I'm gonna hire Kenny Conjo to do a red team attack to make sure we secure. Shout out to him. Everybody go subscribe to him. He's definitely one of the red team experts in this space. So I haven't told him I'm challenging him, Gabe, and Alpha Cyber. I'm gonna lock down AWS infrastructure with the federal stigs, and I'm gonna give it to those guys and let them attack me to see if they can get through. So we're gonna live stream it. I'm gonna be looking at the log. So when Kenny does his magic with his scripts and with his Active Directory unknown attacks, right? I'm gonna see if I can thwart them, right? So we're gonna see the blue team versus the red team showdown on manosphere. So I'm calling everybody out personally now. But shout out to Kenny Conjo. Everybody go out and subscribe to my man. Um, so yeah, so that's it, kind of in a nutshell from an overview what's gonna happen. Because a lot of times when I do these things, small company says, "Well, this is too expensive for me." I always joke, I'm like, "I do big boy cybersecurity, so it's gonna cost you, right?" We trying to stop nation states. You got to spend a little money for that. Shout out to Kenny Conjo laughing. Shout out. Nah, so yeah, I'm calling them out. So I've been working on getting my AWS skills up too. That's the next big bag for me. I'm combining AWS with security, getting my cloud SRE, and part of that, of course, is security. That's gonna be my next big bag. Um, so yeah, so shout out to them. Let's see, Peter, amongst the FBI, DoD, Homeland Security, CIA, National, which one of which one with the largest budget and security risk? Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a tough one, man. Because to me, they're all are high value targets for different reasons, right? I'm gonna hit the FBI because if I'm a nation state, they got moles inside my state, right? I want to figure out what moles you are because let's be realistic. I got to use the proper words. Shout out to before the billions. If Russia gets somebody or Iran finds somebody we got over there, they're gonna delete them, right? Of course, COD, that's security for the whole nation. Homeland is actually in charge of that for the whole nation. I probably go Homeland Security, FBI, DOD, CIA, National Security. Biggest budget is probably Homeland because Homeland's supposed to be over top of everybody, Peter. There, if you look at the chart, Homeland's overriding. They delegate to all those other ones. So I would say Homeland's probably got the biggest budget and the biggest authority, right? I'm already sub to him for sure, right? we have, God bless them. I'm going to get the road. All right, be safe out there. That's my take on it, Peter. I might need to do a little more research on that. I'm just calling it off the top of my head because I don't. I'm sure I can figure out and look up who really has the biggest budget, right? But just because you got a big budget, I mean you spend it on cybersecurity, right? So then at the top two is initial security controls. Then let's call it tailoring or creating overlays after tailoring. Then at the bottom, documented security controls decision, the rationale agreed upon the set of controls for those decisions, assets, individuals, and organizations. So let's be perfectly clear, right? Money's not infinite, so you got to make decisions on how much money you got, right? In some systems you have, we call it PII, right? Personal identifier information, FTI, federal tax information. Those systems that house those data is going to be, we're going to spend more money on that and more security if we just got an FTP file movement system, right? So depending on the system and the classification of data on that system, right, it's going to get more money. So we're going to tailor each one of those systems a little differently. And two is, and we're going to show it, I need to put that slide above it. When you do, we're gonna talk about the STIGs. What there are is security controls you put on systems. You have a few. You got about 11% Cat ones, about 80% Cat twos, and you got a few Cat threes. Those Cat twos are you can have mitigated controls, right? Meaning you say this, but I could do something different. So on a database, they want you to use not disk encryption, but table space encryption for the block, right? Oracle and SQL Server sells it, but it's expensive. So I tell programmers if you encrypt the data and save it inside the database, right? You don't need to spend as much on table space encryption because Java can do encryption, C Sharp can do encryption, Python can do encryption, right? So if I encrypt the data and write it in the database, if somebody steals those blocks off the database, right, they can't read the data unless they have the key. All right. So if somebody steals my backup, if they try to lay it down without the key, they can't read those blocks of data. Right. Even if they try to select them out without that key, you can't read the data. Right. So I can do something like they want me to do table space encryption. I'm gonna let my programmers do it. Right. So that's when you get to those cat twos, and we'll talk about a little bit. You can do compensating controls, right? But the government agency has to sign off to make sure they agree that you're doing or what that control says. And we'll look at one of those controls in super detail. Here are the security families. When you talk about NIST, these cover, I want to say 90% of the things you're doing from a security perspective and from a compliance perspective. Like we just fly through. Once again, y'all know me if y'all got any questions. Um, AC, access control, awareness training, audit and accountability, assessment, authorization and monitoring, configuration management, contingency planning, identification and authorization, incident response, maintenance, media protection, physical and environment protection planning, program management, personnel security, PII, processing and transparency. That's something new that just came out. Risk assessment, system service and acquisition, system and communication protection, system information and integrity. This is the big one, supply chain and risk management. So why do I say supply chain and risk management? The Apache Log4j supply chain. Are you looking at your open source programs before you put them on your network? Caseus, right, with the Colonial Pipeline, right? That was supply chain. The favorite solar winds, right? Somebody checked in something to solar winds CI pipeline, right? CDCI pipeline, which is supplies risk chain. Then they checked it in. So this just came out, I want to say this year, right? This is this 800-53 revision 5, right? It just came out, and the big thing in there is supply chain, risk assessment, and PII, right? Because the United States has been getting tore apart the last couple of years on cybersecurity, right? That's why they said it's a 500,000 jobs are open, right, in the industry. So those are the 20 families. So we're gonna, we're gonna look at a couple of those in depth. But if you do each one of those families, lock it down right, you will have a security program, right? And you should be doing 90% of the things you should be covered to handle, right? Now, I'm not crazy when you talk about a nation state, right? That's a different animal and a different beast, right? So at the top, you got your control identifier, which is the AU control name. Organizational defined parameters, those will come if you're talking about DOD, FISMA, HIPAA, FERPA. They'll tell you what those IDs are, right? And how does that work? Related controls, control enhancements, and we'll look at that too. Is it breaks down in a more detailed level what that control is trying to do. That's why I'm a big STIG guy and a CIS guy, because when you look at those controls and you hardening those environments, it actually tells you what that control is doing and what it's trying to block and secure. And so these are the sub controls. I did this from the risk family. Each you have a main control, those families we just saw. Then when you drill down, each one of those has more controls or sub control families. So we just look at a few of these. We did risk assessment, so it goes from RA1 to RA10. So each one of those controls, you're gonna have policy and procedures, security categorization, risk assessment, vulnerability monitoring, scanning. Then if you look at that, R5, it breaks down even subcategories. A part of that monitoring and scanning is update vulnerabilities to be scanned, breadth and depth of coverage, discoverable information, privileged access, and automated trends, right? So we have in which we normally do, and a lot of y'all show up. We have in AWS class, we're going to talk about logs and scanning. And so we're going to delve into what is a privileged account. How are we going to automatically do it? Number 5-8. How are we going to review these historical logs as we save them, right? I do IRS, they want you to save 7 years of law. I'm going to do a one on Marzi, which is Social Security. They want you to save 10 years of logs, right? That's a crap load of money, right? So these things tell you what you need to save to get approved for that certain agency, right? Correlated scanning, right? Right. Correlated scanning is you got a web server, app server, database, F5, VPC, correlators. I need to get all that scanned because I need to be able to trace you as a hacker all the way through my system, right? So I got to correlate all that information from one box to the other, right? If I'm just scanning database, if I get attacked from the load balancer, right, that log might not be in my database logs. It's going to be in my load balancer log. Right? So I got to correlate that to the attack on my database, right? Technical surveillance countermeasures, risk response, privacy impact assessment, criticality analysis, and shout out to Kenny Conju and everybody just challenged. They threat hunting, right? What are those threats and what are they doing, right? And on that table, we'll just talk about real quick some of those things you saw. Man. Control has been withdrawn from a control catalog, is indicated with a W. An explanation of why it was this shows is in light gray. Sometimes when you look from year to year, you might say, well, what happened to that control? They might withdraw it or remove it, right? Most of the time they move it somewhere else, but they give you a definition of why they withdraw it or remove it. A control enhancement is typically implemented by an information system. This technically means an S. So if you look back there, it's S, some of it's going to be technical and some of it's going to be something else, right? A controller enhancement is typically implemented by the organization. That's the O, which is a non-technical means. Like a policy is a non-technical means of getting things handled, right, and figured out what has happened to it. Right. So those are non-technical uh, non-technical data for what's happening on it, right? Like I said, once again, it's a policy, and the other one, control has is implemented by organization and system, or combination is OS. Control enhancement with a V is an assurance communication control. Control enhancement on the ground of confidence that the security policy claims has been or will be achieved. Right. So they break down each one of those to you and what it actually looks like. Right. So that's the cool thing about it. They kind of give you a hint of what it's being used for and how it's being used, and so those together will make it happen. So once I see it, and when you look at these controls, and we're gonna dig a little deeper, is on a small system, you might have 3 to 4 thousand controls, right? So it's out there. So and we talked a little bit about this. This is the sub family. Since we dug a little bit up there, I'm just gonna hit the high parts of the family, right? We saw the RA was in the 20 family. So risk assessment. Once again, conduct risk assessment, including identifying threats and vulnerabilities, determining the likelihood and magnitude of harm on an unauthorized system, determining the likelihood and impact of adverse effect on individuals arising from processing of personal identifiable information, right? And the big part we jumped down is discussion, right? That'll help you dig down and really figure out what they're talking about, right? Risk assessment considering threats, vulnerability, and likelihood of impact organization and assessment individuals and other organization and the nation. Risk assessment also consider external parties, including contractors, or who operate systems on behalf of the organization, individual who's access organizational systems, servers, providers, and outsourcing entities, right? So we do have contractors that log in our system, right? Are they going to use our PCs or their PCs? Not anybody accessing information from the systems I work on, got to get an FBI background check, right? So once again, depending on the system and the data classification, like I said, you're gonna get an FBI background check. Right? We're gonna talk about DISA once again. That's part of the DoD agencies. DISA plans, engineering, acquired tests, field operation, and information sharing capabilities. Command and control solutions and global enterprise infrastructures report DoD and national level leadership. I like that term right there, national level leadership. Our, our mission is conduct DoD and operations of joint warfighters to enable uh, lethality across all warfighting domains in the defense of our nation. Lethality, right? Meaning we deleting people out here. We take our systems got to be top notch. We deleting people. Our vision is to be a trust provider to connect and protect the warfighter in cyberspace. Because obviously people are attacking our systems, trying to take over our systems. I need to bring up the one where we had a drone. The country hacked our drone, so the data wasn't encrypted. So as we flying through the country we were attacking was looking at our drone fly in, right? So we got to make sure we lock down cybersecurity and uh, and do that at a high level. I need to get that slide and put it in there, right? Drone slide, right? So we got to make sure we doing security at the top level, right? So what is a STIG? The STIG is a security technical implementation guideline, configuration standard consisting of cybersecurity requirements for a specific product. The use of STIG enables methodologies for securing protocols, network servers, networks, computer logical designs to enhance overall security. These guides, when implemented, enhance securities for software, hardware, physical, and logical architecture to further reduce vulnerabilities, right? To reduce vulnerabilities while people attacking us. Example on a STIG would be the benefits is configuration of a desktop computer or enterprise server. Most operating system is not inherently secure, which leaves them open to criminals such as identity thieves and computer hackers. A STIG describes how to minimize network-based attacks and prevent system access to hackers and interfering with the system, either physically at the machine or over the overall network. STIGs are described maintenance processes such as software updates and vulnerability patches. Right, some of those are physical, right? Webcams in a data center. I got a badge in to get to data center. Sometimes it tells you you need to be have guards in front, right? So it tells you from um, physical, computer, even management, what they need to have in there. Advanced theme might cover design of a corporate network, covering configuration of routers, databases, firewall, domain name servers, and switches. Right, so it covers your whole infrastructure. Right, so that's why I'm a big proponent of SIG, CIS, and those level checks. You don't have to guess; it's going to tell you what you need to do. I get a lot of calls of people saying, "Well, how do I know if my Cisco router is secure? How do I know if my database is secure?" I said, "Stick it or do the CIS checks." And even if you can't do them, you know that security requirement is open, right? So you need to know, like we said, you got to mitigate control. You're gonna do something different. You're gonna take your data out of there, or at worst, you can say, I accept this risk, right? So at least you're not negligent. You don't want to be negligent. So even if you accept the risk, you understand what risk you're accepting it. As vice president, CI, or CISO, right? I get in debates with the C-suite about what we should accept and what should we not. Because on the other part, like you said, some of that stuff is expensive, right? Some of that stuff is not cheap, right? So that's part of understanding your corporation, your infrastructure, and where you at as far as the security in your organization, right? So this is a DoD standard, like Cat 1 is any vulnerability or exploitation of which will directly or immediately result in loss of confidentiality, availability, and integrity. Usually, if it's a Cat 1, it's a big vulnerability and it's being attacked in a while, right? If you look, it's usually only 8% of those that are going to be Cat 1. Now we're going to go down to Cat 2, right? Any vulnerability that exists of which degrades measure to protect against loss confidentiality, right? It degrades measure, meaning the hacker can't get in. It might slow your system down, right? It might take it offline, right? But it's not going to open up for a vicious attack, right? So that's one reason why, Cat 3s, we still want those fixed, but we don't freak out about those in any way about what's happening. Um, so the big ones really, when you start talking about them, really is Cat 2, right? So Cat 2 is what 81% are usually high 80s that's working in those, right? So any vulnerability that exploitation which has a potential to result in a loss of confidentiality, availability, and to past potential, right? So since this a lot of times no huge open attack in the wild, you don't see a lot of people using it, right? So once again, you can fix it. The Cat 1, that's what we prefer. You can have a mitigated control, right? You can accept that risk, right? Saying we don't fix it, we don't think that potential is very big, so we're gonna ignore it. Me personally, I never ignore anything. I at least gotta have some compensating controls to say, um, we didn't do this control, but we got these four other controls that actually work right and block that for us. Right. So from that standpoint, that's the Cat 1s, 2, 3s. And usually when I get people started, I say just do assessment. Don't fix anything. Just say, okay, these are open, these are closed. This is our finding, right? These are Cat 1s, 2s, and 3s. And 2 is when you do assessment, then the company can say, okay, we need to spend X amount of money over years to get our system at a certain level, right? So this is actually one of the STIG checks for an Apache 2.4 server. Sorry for the little writing. I'll read it. So it's Cat 1 Apache server 2.4. I'm a big Apache guy. The run title says this account used to run the Apache web server must not have a valid login shell and a password defined. Meaning you can set up accounts in Unix that can't log in. We actually call them external accounts, but we use them to actually run software in them, right? Because even if it's software, you gotta set up an account, and then you compile the software in there and you put them in there. So that software, like I use Tomcat, it's run as a Tomcat user, but you can't log in outside and say log in as a Tomcat user. I log in my regular account, and I call sudo. It's switch users to that user. Right? When I switch users, I get certain capabilities to do that Tomcat user, right? But once again, it's not a regular account, right? So if somebody try to hack it from the outside, they couldn't get to it. So discussion during installation of the Apache web server. Accounts are created for Apache web server to operate properly. The accounts installed can either be no password installed or the default passwords, which will be known and documented in the vendor. So number one is we're not going to use the default accounts that come with the vendor. And two is I prefer to know a password so nobody can ever attack me from the outside. Some accounts and system accounts have no login capability and do not need to have a password set or change. All right, so check the text, identify the account using the HTTPD process. Then you look for UPS-EF and you grep for the account, and it shows you the Apache account. Then it shows you how to look to see if there's a password set to that file. So you check and see. Then now it says fix update the etc password file to assign the account used to run the HTTP process with an invalid login shell with the SB and no login. Right. So we're not going to dig in there, but it tells you how to set up that account. It tells you how to set up an account with no password, right? And it tells you how to lock it down, right? For those users, therefore, I can go check out. I did these proper things to lock down my Apache web server, right? So now what we're going to do is, and we almost done. It's a FedRAMP is NIST in the cloud. That's it, right? So the government, like everybody else, says, hey, we got all these data centers. We're doing all these patches. Let's go to one. What's the AWS was the first one. They were trying to get that government bag, right? Azure and Google fell in, right? So they set up, and we get into it, special data centers in AWS that are certified for the government to do government work, right? So the government's trying to take advantage of the cloud, right? That's what everybody's trying to do. I'll shoot that functionality and work to the cloud. A quick overview. Uh, Federal Risk and Authorization and Management Program, aka FedRAMP, was established in 2011. Cost-effective and risk-based approach for adoption of cloud services for federal government. FedRAMP empower agencies to use modern cloud technologies with the emphasis on security protection of federal information. Right, so they just want to vet one of those cloud data centers, and everybody can use it. You don't have to keep vetting this stuff, right? That once FedRAMP says good, you're good, right? Mission: FedRAMP is a government program that promotes the adoption and secure cloud services across federal government by providing a standardized approach to security risk and assessment for cloud technologies and federal agencies. Benefits: reduce duplicated efforts, inconsistencies, and cost efficient. Establish a public-private partnership to promote innovation. Enables the government to accelerate adoption of cloud platform by creating a transparent standard process for security authorization and allowing agencies to leverage the security authorization on a government-wide scale. Goal: to grow the use of secure cloud platforms by government agencies. Enable the framework by the government to secure authorized cloud technologies. Build and foster strong partnership with the FedRAMP stakeholders. Right? Once again, they already built it, just certified, and you just have, agencies use it, and you take that off of your government's platform. So the cloud first policy requires all government agencies to use the FedRAMP process to conduct security assessments. Program management offices has these requirements. The cloud service provider has been granted an agency authority to operate, an ATO, used by federal agencies or provisional authority to operate by joint application board, aka the JAB. Right. But cloud service providers, they meet the FedRAMP and the NIST 800-53 Revision 3. All cloud service providers get approved by a third party, the 3PAO, which is Booz Allen, Price Waterhouse, Lockheed. They come out and then certify particular clouds to do government work. Right? Also, I need to do a better job. Introduction of AWS Government Cloud region. So I'm studying for AWS, right? So I've been studying for my cert, so that's why I'm always using AWS. But they have specific data centers that are just for government customers, right? It's called AWS Gov Cloud. You can Google it. It's for just government agencies can be in this cloud. If you commercial, if you don't have a .gov email address or when they go review it, it's got to be an actual government agency. So at the top, it tells you some things that they qualify, and we talked about that earlier. FedRAMP High, DOJ Criminal, CJIS, ITAR, United States International Traffic in Arms, Export Administration, Department of Defense. We talked about IRS Pub 1075. So that's only customers can go into the government cloud. You as a vendor, if you're trying to get your products in there, a government agencies that's already approved for the clouds got to invite you to come in and get certified FedRAMP for you to bring your tools in there. So if you look at some of the big companies that are already in there, VMware is in there. I'm trying to think a ton of Adobe's in there, right? But they got all their software pre-approved to work in a government agency, right? To go through their rigors to hopefully stop you from bringing in vulnerabilities to their cloud. Right? And also, they have a couple public clouds. AWS is in U.S. East and West regions. Is only accessible to U.S. entities and root account holders who pass the screening process. Customers must confirm that they will only use U.S. person, green card holders, or citizens as defined United States by the United States Department of State to manage and access their root account. Right? So all your workers got to be in the United States or in a United States region. Also, too, is AWS. Since AWS Gov was too expensive, they made a couple of their regions FedRAMP approved. AWS US East and West regions. They had an ATO since 2013. They actually provide new services. So those commercial clouds are already FedRAMP approved, right? So if you want to do FedRAMP work in those clouds, you can do that, right? So here, when we talk about FedRAMP in the cloud, the first part of that is shared customer responsibilities. And I've talked about that number of times. At the top is what's the customer responsible for, responsibly in the cloud, customer data, identity and access, operating system, firewall configuration. And orange is responsibility of the cloud. It's AWS. Software, compute storage, database networking, regions, availability zones, right? So AWS got a FedRAMP for the orange. You need to get a FedRAMP for the blue, right? If you're doing that type of work. And at the bottom, depending on which type of platform, infrastructure, platform as a service, or software as a service. At the side, if you infrastructure as a service, you got more control. SaaS, you got less control, right? So the more control you have, meaning you're responsible for it, you have to apply those sticks to those particular infrastructure or platform because you're responsible for it, right? Then once again, since you're responsible for it, you got to make sure they're FedRAMP or NIST approved to run in those data centers, right? You're talking about doing federal work or a big state work, right? So then part of that too is the basic operation checklist, right? How does that roll? How does that happen, right? Develop and system architecture to help customers assess their application use of specific service and features their laws. Enterprise architect to assist enterprises in identifying key items to think about when you build migration and operational strategy to the cloud. Then auditing and security checks, like we talked about, NIST, CIS, and CIS, uh, to assist customers when they evaluate their security controls required by their specific industry or governing body, like NIST, ISO, PSO, FISMA, ISPA, right? So all of this is intact, right? We're talking about doing federal work and government work, right? And this tells you from AWS what their government and clouds is already certified for. A ton of them, but these are the high ones that I look at, that I do. CGIS, DOD, we talked about FedRAMP, FERPA for education, FISMA, GSP is for pharmaceuticals, HIPAA, health, and then other that is high trust, the other part of it. So those are handled by AWS out the box. But once again, that's for what they're responsible for. You still got to lock down what you're responsible for, right? And a part of you usually responsible for, like I said, we wind it down. There's an application security about that. When you take your application and you put it on AWS infrastructure, right? That's the part you're responsible for. Right? Application security is the process of developing, adding, and testing security features with applications to prevent security vulnerabilities against threat, such as unauthorized access, modification, insider threat, right? All of that. Why is application security important? Because today's applications are also available over various networks connected to the cloud, increased vulnerabilities, security threats, and breaches. This increased pressures and incentives to not only insecure networks at the network level, but also within the application themselves. One reason for this is because hackers are going after apps with their attacks more today than in the past. Application security testing can reveal weaknesses at the application level, helping to prevent these attacks. Right. So the first thing, if your app's open to the web and anybody can touch it, that's the first thing the hacker's going to scan and figure out what's going on. Right. So as part of our application checklist, once again, I'm a STIG guy. So these are checks, and we're not going to go on any. We're just going to hit. So the application checklist is 286 checks, right? My development team does not like me, right? But I'm trying to make sure we're secure. So we got 286 checks, like we said, 31 category one, 233 mediums, and 22 lows, right? So that's what we're trying to do to our application to make sure it's secure, right? And make sure we can meet the DOD, HIPAA, FERPA, whatever accreditation we're trying to get to. So we're trying to make sure our app is secure with the proper controls. Right. The other part of that is OWASP. That's part of the application checklist. They actually point to OWASP. OWASP is a nonprofit organization to improve the security of software through company-led open software projects, hundreds of local chapters, tens of thousands of members. To secure the webs, they got tools, resources, community networking, education, and training. Right. So that's one of the big agencies out there. And their famous thing is the OWASP Top 10. So if you look through the right, these are the top 10 in order how people are actually hacking into applications. So number one is broken access control, cryptographic failures, injection, insecure design, security misconfiguration, vulnerable outdated components, identification and authorization failures, software data integrity failures, security and monitoring failures, and server-side request forgery. Right, so those are the top 10 to hack. So, and we can dig in those later. Each one of those tells you what the attack is and basically how to secure it. So information technology systems and information contains are more essential to the operation of both business and government. Through a process of certification and accreditation, at a system can be granted authority to operate, sometimes called authorization operating status that approves an IT system for use in a particular organization. Right. So that's it at a high level from a federal compliance, the checks, and how you need to do it. And I'm sure we'll dig down in each more. Once again, I got a playlist of different compliances and how to get in there. Let me know if you got any questions. I know that was kind of dry, but compliance is what we need. It's a big bag, and you pair that along with security, and I think that's why a lot of people actually get hacked because they have no compliance, they have no security program, they have no policies. Management has no indication of what they're doing and what risk they're accepting and really, what they're doing. So that's where compliance is. And two is those government agencies, credit cards, HIPAA, they want to have some semblance of confidence, like we said in there, confidence that your system is secure and won't get everybody hacked, right? So I appreciate everybody for joining me. I want to wish everybody happy holiday. Um, Sunday we're going over cloud trails, cloud watch alert. We're gonna go over SIMs. We're gonna go over behavior of your network and what's considered non-normal, right? Because with your logs, you can do a baseline of activity on your network and in your system. So if something's 20% out of line, right? That could mean somebody's hacking your organization or normal files you sent out are 10 gig, but now you got 40 gigs out. Maybe somebody stole your whole database, right? So we'll talk about that on Sunday with the logs, normal 3 o'clock. So if you can join me, if you can, if not, I always check me out on replay. Happy holidays, everyone. I appreciate the helmet. Good class today, Professor. I appreciate that blind guy, his wife, and their life, and happy birthday. So everybody go check everybody, support everybody on these YouTube streets out here. Shout out to my man before the billions with it wasn't 24 hours. I think he got to 30 hours or something. So shout out to him putting in work. So like I said, I might do that maybe in January. I doubt it though. I probably go for 4 or 5 hours. I can't go no 24 hours. So happy birthday. I'm out. Everybody have a nice holiday. I might come on tomorrow. I haven't made my mind up. Um, Everybody have a good holiday, and I'll see you on these YouTube streets.